I watched them all the time. I think I watched Indiana State and Iowa, Caitlin Clark play about the same last year, so I was watching a lot of basketball.
Larry Bird just shattered the silence, and what he said about Marina Mabrey might be the most brutal takedown we've ever seen from an NBA legend. This wasn't some casual comment from the sidelines. It was a full-blown warning from one of basketball's greatest minds, and his words are echoing through the WNBA like a bombshell. It all started with a shove. Marina Mabrey hit Caitlin Clark from behind in the middle of a game when Clark wasn't even looking. Fans were already outraged, but when Bird saw the footage, his reaction wasn't just strong, it was devastating. He called it the weakest form of competition imaginable, and he didn't stop there.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's gonna get ejected. Marina Mabrey kind of blindsided Clark there. Oh boy. Sheldon and Cunningham are getting into it. These two teams do not like each other.
Bird wasn't just defending Clark, he was exposing something deeper, a disturbing pattern of cheap shots, jealousy, and silence that's been bubbling under the surface of the league for months, and the way he compared it to his own battles in the NBA, that's what really struck a nerve. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Larry Bird's words weren't just criticism, they were a wake-up call, and what he said about Marina Mabrey's future might change everything. It happened in a flash, but the impact was immediate and explosive. During a tense physical matchup, Marina Mabrey delivered a shove to Caitlin Clark's back, a move that might have gone unnoticed if it weren't for the timing.
Like, can we get Caitlin Clark a little protection out there?
Clark had just taken a poke to the eye, clearly dazed and off balance, when Mabrey struck. The push wasn't just unnecessary, it was calculated, it was cold, and worst of all, it was done when Clark was at her most vulnerable. The moment lit up social media like wildfire. Thousands of fans demanded answers. Analysts were divided. Was this just aggressive defense in a high-stakes game? Or was it something more disturbing? A targeted hit meant to intimidate and humiliate one of the league's most promising stars? But the anger didn't stop with fans. For days, the footage kept making its rounds, replayed on loop in highlight reels, fan edits, and talk shows.
Anybody that does something flagrant to this young lady for what she's brought to the game should be suspended and fined big time.
Yet one person remained silent, until he couldn't anymore. Larry Bird, a man who made a career out of thriving under brutal physical play, finally spoke out. And what he said wasn't just criticism, it was a direct personal attack on what Mabrey had done and what it meant for the WNBA. He didn't mince words, he didn't try to soften the blow. He said it was the most cowardly act I've seen on a basketball court in decades. That line alone sent shockwaves through the basketball world. But Bird wasn't just disgusted by the act itself, it was the message behind it that hit hardest. Caitlin Clark wasn't shoved during a scuffle. She was shoved while hurt, blindsided when she wasn't even engaged in the play. In Bird's eyes, it wasn't physical toughness. It was opportunistic weakness masquerading as defense. And that was just the beginning of what Bird had to say. Larry Bird isn't just another retired player with something to say. He's one of the toughest competitors the game has ever seen. His words carry real weight because he played through one of the most physical eras in NBA history and earned respect by going toe-to-toe with legends. So when he called Marina Mabrey's shove on Caitlin Clark the most cowardly act he's seen in decades, it wasn't just criticism, it was a direct hit. Bird knows what it's like to be targeted. Back in the 80s, defenders tried everything to shake him. Elbows, trash talk, hard fouls. It was all part of the game, but even then, Bird says there were rules. You didn't go after someone when they were already hurting. You didn't blindside a player who wasn't even involved in the play, and that's exactly why this moment stood out to him. When Clark was shoved, she had just taken a poke to the eye. She wasn't engaged, wasn't looking, and certainly wasn't expecting it. To Bird, that wasn't toughness. It was weakness pretending to be competitive fire. But what made things worse was Mabrey's reaction after the fact. Instead of owning up to it or showing any kind of remorse, she deflected the blame and acted like she was the one under attack. That response, in Bird's eyes, revealed everything he needed to know about her mindset, and that's when he really started to dig in. Larry Bird didn't just criticize Marina Mabrey's shove. He dismantled her entire approach to the game. What angered him most wasn't the physical act itself, but what it revealed about who she is as a competitor. He said real players, real champions, don't hide behind cheap shots and excuses. They show up, face their opponents head on, and take responsibility for everything they do. But Mabrey, Bird said her reaction told the real story. After the incident, she didn't show an ounce of accountability. Instead, she fired back at the media and fans with the defensive comment, "Damned if I do, damned if I don't." To Bird, that wasn't confidence. That was deflection, a way to dodge the fact that she crossed a line and didn't want to admit it. And that's when Bird dropped the most cutting part of his critique. He said that when players resort to those kinds of tactics, it's usually because they know they can't compete through pure skill. He didn't say it outright, but the message was clear. Mabrey's shove wasn't just dirty, and it was the move of someone who knows she's outmatched. Bird essentially painted her as a second-tier player, trying to stay relevant by targeting someone who's already passed her by. And in doing so, he flipped the entire narrative. It wasn't Caitlin Clark who looked weak in that moment. It was Marina Mabrey. Because when you can't win the game, some people try to break the opponent instead. But Bird didn't stop there. Because in Clark, he sees something completely different. And what he said about her next makes it clear this story is about far more than just one incident. For Larry Bird, Caitlin Clark isn't just a talented rookie, she's the real deal, a once-in-a-generation player with the kind of instincts, vision, and leadership you can't teach. And that's exactly why Bird is so protective of her. He sees something in Clark that reminds him of himself, not in terms of style, but in how she thinks the game. Her basketball IQ is off the charts. Her ability to read defenses, make impossible passes, and drain shots under pressure is the kind of rare combination that separates the good from the great. And it's not just her stats, it's how she makes everyone around her better, how she lifts an entire team through presence alone. But as much as Bird praises her skill, he's also deeply concerned because despite her talent, Clark isn't being celebrated the way she should be. She's being targeted, fouled hard, pushed around, and in Bird's view, she's spending more time defending herself from cheap shots than focusing on the game she loves. That's what bothers him most. She's only 22 years old, already carrying the weight of an entire league on her shoulders, and yet she's constantly forced to look over her shoulder. Bird called it a disgrace, not just because it's unfair to Clark, but because it robs the game of its integrity. Instead of challenging her with skill, players are trying to knock her off balance with tactics that belong nowhere near professional basketball. And as Bird made clear, this isn't just about one player, it's about what the league values and what it's willing to tolerate. Larry Bird's message wasn't just for Marina Mabrey, it was a direct challenge to the entire WNBA, and it came with a warning. Keep allowing this kind of behavior and the league risks destroying the very future it's trying to build. Bird didn't sugarcoat it. He said that when leagues allow players to target their brightest stars without real consequences, they're sending a dangerous message, not just to fans, but to every young player watching at home. A message that says dirty tactics are acceptable if you can't match someone's talent, that it's okay to play the game the wrong way as long as it gets attention, and that, Bird warned, creates a toxic culture, one where skill and discipline take a back seat to frustration and jealousy, one where the athletes who actually elevate the game get pushed aside by those who can't keep up and don't want to try. He said it plainly. If this is allowed to continue, players like Caitlin Clark, the ones who have the power to bring millions of new fans to the sport, won't just be discouraged. They'll start questioning if it's even worth it. In Bird's eyes, this isn't just a player issue. It's a league issue, a test of leadership, because every time the WNBA fails to act, it's not just protecting the wrong people, it's pushing away the ones who matter most. And what he said next only raised the stakes higher. To Larry Bird, this isn't just about a cheap shot or a single game. It's about the identity of the sport itself. He made it clear. What's happening to Caitlin Clark is bigger than basketball. It's about integrity, leadership, and whether the WNBA is ready to grow or destined to stay stuck. Bird said that moments like these define more than just a season. They define a league's values. And right now, he sees a dangerous shift. Instead of rewarding players who dedicate themselves to greatness, the spotlight is starting to favor drama, conflict, and chaos. And the people suffering most? The true competitors. He described Caitlin Clark as everything that makes the game beautiful. Intelligence, precision, vision, class. But the way she's being treated, that's everything that threatens to ruin it. He said it feels like watching watching someone try to build something historic, while others are busy trying to tear it down out of insecurity. And that's what frustrates him most, because Bird knows how rare players like Clark are. He knows what they can do for a sport, for a fan base, for an entire generation of athletes. But instead of being protected and promoted, she's being tested in all the wrong ways, not by defenders challenging her skills, but by players trying to shake her confidence through reckless hits and mind games. Bird's message couldn't be clearer. This isn't just about protecting Caitlin Clark, it's about protecting the soul of the game. The moment Larry Bird's comments hit the airwaves, the basketball world split in two. Headlines exploded, sports networks scrambled to cover it, social media lit up with reactions, some praising Bird for saying what needed to be said, others accusing him of going too far. But no matter where you stood, one thing was clear: the league could no longer ignore what was happening. Fans rallied behind Bird's words, echoing his call for the WNBA to finally protect its stars. Comment sections filled with outrage, not just at Mabrey's shove, but at what they saw as a pattern of unchecked disrespect toward Clark. Hashtags supporting Clark trended for days, while others began calling out specific players and the league's silence. Marina Mabrey, meanwhile, didn't back down. In interviews, she stuck to her position, denying any wrongdoing and pushing back on the criticism. But the more she spoke, the more it added fuel to the fire. Every quote, every dismissive comment seemed to validate what Bird had warned about: a player more interested in deflecting blame than owning up to what happened. Inside league circles, things got tense. Coaches, executives, and even former players began weighing in. Some defended Mabrey, others quietly admitted that Bird might be right and that the league had a growing problem on its hands, and Caitlin Clark was paying the price for it. And through it all, Clark herself stayed mostly silent, continuing to show up, play hard, and carry the pressure of being the WNBA's most talked about player. But behind the scenes, it was clear: Larry Bird's words had shaken the league, and the aftershocks were just beginning. Larry Bird didn't just call out one player or even one incident. He issued a challenge to the entire league, and his final message was simple but powerful: the WNBA is at a crossroads. What happens next will either protect the sport's future or undermine it completely. He warned that if the league continues to allow physical targeting, dirty tactics, and dismissive behavior to go unchecked, it won't just hurt Caitlin Clark. It will drive away the very players and fans that could take the league to the next level. Bird said the WNBA has a choice: reward talent, integrity, and real competition, or let bitterness and frustration take over the court. But what hit hardest wasn't just his warning, it was his belief in Clark. He said she's already being forged by fire. Every hit she takes, every cheap shot, every headline, it's building her into something even tougher. Bird compared it to his own rookie year, when players tried to break him down early, only to watch him rise and dominate the league. He said Clark is doing the same, but with more pressure, more cameras, and far more weight on her shoulders than he ever had at 22. And yet, she's still showing up. Still putting on a show, still making people care about women's basketball like never before. That's why Bird's message matters so much, because he's not just defending a player, he's defending the future of the game. The idea that greatness deserves protection, not punishment. Larry Bird didn't just defend Caitlin Clark, he exposed a growing problem in the WNBA. He called out a league that's letting its brightest stars take cheap shots without consequence. And his message was clear: this isn't just about one incident, it's about the future of the game. Bird warned that if the WNBA allows this kind of behavior to continue, it sends the wrong message to players and fans. It rewards frustration over talent. It tells young athletes that it's okay to go low when you can't compete high. And that, he says, threatens everything the league is trying to build. Caitlin Clark is already changing the game. She's bringing attention, new fans, and a level of skill we haven't seen in years. But instead of being protected, she's being targeted. And if that continues, Bird believes the league could lose the very players who are meant to carry it forward. Now the question is, will the WNBA finally step up? Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Bird right to go this hard, or did he cross the line? I read every comment and I want to hear your thoughts. And if you want more breakdowns like this that tell the real story behind the headlines, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this conversation is far from over.